Okay, well, hello everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Goddess and Energy Coming Alive. I hope you are well wherever you may be. It's been a really fascinating and interesting time as we move into autumn. And I was so sad that summer was going and the leaves were going to fall off, you know. And then my body actually started to change. I noticed the shifts starting to happen, and there was more of this embrace of what was happening to Earth, the quietening down, the slowing down of everything, also happening in my body. And I find that just fascinating how my body echoes what is happening in nature around me. Um, Today, I'm really, really excited to bring on my very special guest, Seshen. She is a Japanese woman, a very dear friend, and my younger sister, not by blood, but by spirit and soul. And we first met maybe, I don't know, a little over 10 years ago when we were both training to become soul motion conscious dance movement teachers. It was a year-long process with really wonderful people. And since then, Session has really journeyed into her own artistry and power. Um, and it's just a really beautiful, wonderful, fascinating journey. So let me introduce you as to who she is. Session is an artist both in expressive arts and the healing arts. She currently lives in California with her artist husband after having spent 6 years in Norway. And she's a vocalist, a musician, dancer, and healer. In the expressive arts, she primarily works with improvisation. And in the healing arts, she practices energy attunement and journey through hands-on work, as well as through sound healing. Nature has been her greatest inspiration, teacher, guidance, and co-creator for her artistic practice and work. And so I'm just going to bring Session on. So let me see. Here we go. And entering into full screen. All right. Welcome, Session.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi there.
Yes. Thank you for
So,
inviting me here.
oh, you're so welcome. You know, um, First of all, I wanted to just ask you, when did you first start feeling into the energies in nature um, and starting to open to communication with nature and yourself? How did that begin, do you think?
Yeah. So I was born in Tokyo and grew up most of the time in Japan. I spent some years in Europe. And yeah, Tokyo, as you know, it's a it's a city. So I was a city girl, I guess. And I also grew up with my family who were not so much into nature. So in that way, I feel I was quite much disconnected with nature. And
Hmm.
in my mid-20s, I went through some illness, and that was kind of the very much turning point in my life. And I started to educate myself with different kinds of alternative healing practices in order to heal myself first. But that led me to connect with my soul calling, that I also want to be in service through my own transformation, because we all rise together. That's what I very much believe in. And
Hmm.
so my healing path was, I feel, very much to return to my own body, and to cultivate more and more intimate connection with my body and the mystery within, which I'm still feeling very much. I've been continuing. And so the more I started to listen to my body intimately and deeply, I realized somewhere very much in deeper knowing that this longing actually to learn more nature and spend time in nature.
Mm.
I think first, so much of the experience in nature was something unfamiliar and therefore also sometimes scary. But then I was always taking in that feeling and reaction that I was experiencing inside of me. And also through that, I was feeling the potential this can be changed, which was also connected with some kind of longing inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to inquire myself. I want to learn from this phenomena. And
Right.
I started to spend more time in nature. Certainly, coming to California time to time back then when I was living still in Japan, and then educating myself more with slow motion practice, you together and with others, this radiating vast nature of California woke something inside of me up. That's very much what I still remember so tangibly. And the more I allow myself to surrender to the gravity, one of very good friend of mine shared with me, and which I love so much, this expression: the gravity is mutual attraction between the earth and us.
Mm.
So it's not like that we have to surrender, but it's a meeting, this mutual attraction that's happening every moment. And I think that's what I started to discover through my bodily experience. And then I also started to learn nature through farming, for example,
Uh-huh.
because I really wanted to learn all these things that was used to be unknown for me. And these experiences, I think.
Yeah, because I'm starting to remember that because you spent some time at Esalen as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And really, and also studied like massage
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and cranial sacral
Yes.
work. Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I educated myself. The training I did was in Bali, but yes, Iceland massage certification course I did in Bali, and then I met my teacher who used to live in Iceland, but then already living in Bali. I studied with him the craniosacral biodynamic. So I discovered myself more and more actually really interested in a feeling deeper connection to subtler alchemy in the
Mm-hmm.
body that um, some people might say it's not concrete, but it's actually very concrete. It's there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very much also connected with nature.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I think many of us who have come into that pathway of opening up to energy, um, many of us have had healing crises in different ways, whether it's an emotional or a physical breakdown or both, that happens, that opens up a gateway to trying to understand and sense things differently. And then to have to educate or re educate um, ourselves by understanding sensation, like what touch is, or how to sense the energy of the other that one touches, whether it's another body or whether it's a stone or a tree. And so there's a sensitizing because we become, as you said, in the city, we become so desensitized. And I think the education system itself tells us how to think. It's like think. And there's nothing wrong with learning how to think. But then in the process, they don't teach us sense, how do you sense? And and I'm fascinated by how different people navigate that pathway, because I think for many people who are wanting to find a way back into the body, it's 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 frustrating because people say, well, you need to be more in body, and they go, yeah, but how. And so I feel that it's very important to speak about the pathways that we've taken. And
Mhm.
so that's fascinating that you were attracted to cranial sacral. But you used to,
Mhm.
weren't you a singer? You were singing jazz, and then you stopped singing in your 20s or something. Something happened to your voice.
Yes, yes. Music was my love since I was young girl, and singing was truly my love. And yet, yeah, there was a time I was singing in band, and I was doing these things also in my early 20s. But there was a time when I started to disconnect, so to say. It just happened, and it became more and more difficult. And so I lost my singing voice for 7 years, and the recovery of it was very, very profound for me, because all this practice with healing work, and I started to also work with my clients, and then as I continue to walk on this path, I also learned to discover the finer energy and
Mm,
its experiences. And one day I was spending a time with an elder, and actually when I was visiting California, and she is an intuitive healer, and she uses sometimes also light language. And she told me that you can actually do by yourself, just try. And having her as witness, I was starting to work on my body and energy with the voice. And then all this magic happened. I experienced it so tangibly, what was going on inside of me. And then she said, you see, this is what you can also share with others.
mm,
So that was completely, it was kind of returning to my voice, but at the same time, completely again meeting anew from different perspective and different approach, and something that I have been probably always longing for and looking for, but not knowing that this existed.
so tell me, how was it? How did it feel? So instead of coming from a place of like, I am going to sing, was it,
Mhm.
what did that feel like when you rediscovered
Yeah,
your voice to sing?
yeah. And that was definitely the first step of coming back. And then, of course, coming back to really performing was another big step. But I think in the foundation is this listening, the practice
Mm,
of listening, and also how can we more receive, and how can we soften our senses and open our senses, instead of coming from this place, okay, I have to present
yeah,
something, or I have to
yeah.
perform. And this is definitely big and such beautiful and profound journey for me of how do we allow ourselves to let go of the ambition and open up for the unknown and also guidance of our body.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, it's in a way, it's sort of the difference between the masculine approach and the feminine approach, that they're both good if there's a balance. But I feel like we've been taught so much the masculine approach, which is of control,
Yeah.
you know, of I have to make something happen. And there are times when that's important because, you know, if we don't actually, we can think about going outside, but if we don't actually get up and move, we won't be outside. So that action is really important. But when there is only that and we forget the other part, then it becomes more and more about control and about, you know, how do I get this to this place? You know, I want to get my voice to this place. I want my movement to go to this place, or the healing has to happen like this, or I want my client to be like this. Then everything becomes about control, as if there is um, a goal that has to be reached,
Yeah.
which is a definite goal, instead of opening to the mystery and the magic of creation, and that we are co-creating at the same time. And then there is that kind of a softening, as you say, and a tenderness,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I feel is just as you said, because I've had a similar experience in connecting with that longing. There's a longing to to be part of this ocean of life, to be able to swim in it, yes, but also to receive and be held and to hold. And that longing can actually, when not met, lead to very deep despair and depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think we struggle to find that longing, um, not understanding initially that it's really about opening to listening, to to standing still, you know, to stop moving, and um, and to let. I think it was one of Vin's, Vincent Martinez. You know, at the time he was called Vin Marti, but he was the creator of and the designer, I guess he calls himself, of soul motion, which is a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful practice of conscious movement. And there was that moment when, in the pause, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and because in dance sometimes we just get so taken, and he would say, pause, pause, just soften the knees, and then that soft gaze, the
Mm-hmm.
soft gaze, instead of trying to attack the world with our gaze or to grab something, to let the world come to you,
Yeah.
you know. And that's I really remember being taken by that expression, let the world come to you, you know, so that all of a sudden our attention or our ambition, as you said, is released,
Mm-hmm.
and there's space, there's spaciousness.
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
I think it's really a constant practice between this being moved and moving. That itself is the dance. But of course, there are many different values and approaches, and yet that's at least what calls me and interests me. How can I weave these two ways of being? And definitely very interested in um, being moved part, and yet not completely somehow being passive, because
mm-hmm,
receiving doesn't have to be passive. And that's the practice, I believe, to how do we stay centered within ourselves and clear. And the more we are that, then perhaps we can open more and receive and allow this everything to co-create with us. So
Yeah, yeah, because that's where the exciting thing is, because then we're moving into the unknown,
mhm,
because then the territory becomes um, literally something we are co-creating together in that moment, and not trying to recreate something that we already know and
yes,
making that happen in
yeah,
in in that way or something like that. But
mhm,
um, there is this, I don't know, like a passion or a mystery of discovering, um, maybe not even discover. I don't even know if there's a word that exists, but um, yeah, it's literally of creating something that we didn't know
yeah,
was there before.
yeah. I like the word discover.
Mm,
I think it's
yeah,
really yes, definitely, because when we are not busy with our own mind, wanting to create some kind of certain thing that we aim for, and then we started to really see what's there, and then yes, there is this discovery, like you're saying. And I
yeah,
think that spark that we need each moment, that energy will be also in the expression. So it's not only what we are actually doing, but this moment to moment of being the fascination and appreciation, and that can be also very much big part of artistic expression,
yeah,
probably. Mm,
yeah. No, absolutely. Because I say to a lot of people, I say, because people go, well, I don't know how to improvise. And I go, but life is improvisation. Actually, you're a master or a mistress of improvisation, because we don't know in the morning when we wake up, um, what's going to actually happen. We can plan on things, but it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. And I feel that one time a friend of mine said, "Oh, I wish I could get back that excitement that I had as a child." I would wake up in the morning, I couldn't wait to go outside. And he said, "I want what happened? I wonder what happened." And I said, "Well, it's because the mind took over
mhm,
and made everything safe, made everything predictable. And then it's boring, right? If everything is predictable, it's really boring, because then you go, well, I get up and I have breakfast, and then I do this, and then I go to work, and then da, 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 and then I come back and I read, have dinner, and then I go to bed. And it's a really boring day. And there are days when I find myself in that space too, you know? And then I go, wait, 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 I gotta get off. I gotta get off
mhm,
this train that is my mind. It's like a speeding bullet train that doesn't stop anywhere. I have to get off, and to get off, I find more and more, is about getting back into my body. The body is always in the present moment somehow. I don't know why that is, but it is. So that if I can get back into my senses, it it suddenly opens up potential and possibility of the truth of the moment, which is nothing is certain and everything is being discovered as we go along. So either we can be an adventurer, or we can just, you know, shut ourselves up into the mind, the small prison of our mind, and not look at anything, you know,
yeah.
something like that.
Yes, and yes, and and that's safe, but because we just are being in our own routine, but at the same time, it's just the um, safetiness that we have created. It's like the building the all this strong muscle around us to toughen ourselves, not
Mm.
so that anything else would not be able to come and touch inside this very, very tender place.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I'm not sure if I could express in a
No,
yeah.
I think that's really, it's very powerful what you say, because I think we start to do that, develop those strong muscles out of just one, usually it's one experience that we had quite young,
Yes.
and we decide that that's what the world is all about. And then we try to block that out, whatever that fear or whatever hurt that might have caused or danger. Um, we sense it as danger, and it's yeah, some things are dangerous, like you don't want to put your hand into the fire, it will burn. um, but there are certain ways of connecting with fire that will not burn you. That's why there is the fire walk, right? So that we can't just say no, fire is dangerous, it will burn. um, Fire is many things, and our relationship to it can also change. And I think it's one of the very powerful practices that awaken people, because it's so illogical that you can walk on burning coals and not get burnt. you know, it's it's one of the mysteries of life, and then we start to understand that a lot of life and the understanding that we have is delusional. This whole thing about safety is actually delusional. It's actually safer to be present, I think. You know, but I want to ask you about, you know, so that you have this the journey um, into to finding yourself and finding nature. And I remember some extraordinary images from your work when you went to Iceland.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was after the soul motion training, and you took it into a completely different tangent, because we were inside all the time and practicing. What happened for you there? Because that was just a really beautiful exchange, in a way, that I saw the films that you made.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's kind of the continuation of my answer to your first question. I think that that was definitely the time when my yeah, the quality of the connection and communion with nature have somehow yeah transformed into another level. And I think really time spent in Iceland was for me in a way confirmation, affirmation, and also initiation, as the energy there is so strong.
Mm,
It's the land where all the invisible beings are so alive and people are living in respect for those beings. So when all the people have that awareness and tune into that consciousness, then of course these all beings also are relating with us perhaps differently. But
Mm-hmm.
in any case, when I was invited to visit Iceland to give workshop, and then the inviter also invited me to do this collaborative work to make this site-specific movement art film in Icelandic nature. And so I was spending there for already a few days and just really immersing myself into that energy and in nature. And I think my channel got also more activated than ever. And then as I enter into this landscape, there is all these invisible, intangible, but so tangible energy around me that join me, or I'm joining them. And so I was very, around that time, I was very inspired. How can I create one landscape together with the natural environment, like we were doing, for example, in soul motion practice, okay, with all movers, dancers, how do we co-create one landscape? And just being true to our own movement and our own listening, and yet as we are including each other in our awareness, and then this magic happens, all these 30, 40, 50 people moving together, and yet as we are listening to each other, then this one organism is moving. And so I was very inspired to investigate and go deeper with this inquiry. Okay, how can I be part of, instead of moving, having the wonderful nature background?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And that took you to Norway in the end, no?
Definitely, that was, yeah, that was the very initial for me connection with the Nordic environment, for sure, when I visited Iceland. And yes, around that time I was deeply called by Norway, and since it was quite close from Iceland, so I visited Norway also for the first time in my life. Why Norway called me was originally, then I was living in Vancouver, Canada, and I attended one of the concerts at Vancouver Jazz Festival by Norwegian Music Ensemble, which was kind of my dream coming true, because I have been very inspired by this musical group and composer. And
What's his name?
his name is Christian Valmure, and he's a jazz pianist composer. And he had this his own ensemble with several musicians, and I went to the concert listening to their music, and it was such strong experience that I felt Norwegian nature. And this was again another moment in my life, something meeting and experiencing something that I have been always looking for, but not really knowing that I was exactly looking for that. And after that experience in the concert, I started to really sense that Norwegian land was calling me. And that time I was really wanting to develop myself in my own musical language and expression, something that I didn't know that exists, but I had this sense that it's existing somewhere. And that's energy, that's nature, that's deep listening, but also expressing the space and all this silence. This quality was there. And so, yeah, that's why I visited Norway in 2013 for the first time. And then eventually I moved to Norway within half a year.
right? And you started a program there, didn't you? You went
Yeah.
back to
Mhm.
school.
Yeah, I went back to school. I was enrolled in the Norwegian Academy of Music, and there was this very, very special program only for 1, 2 people a year called individual program, where basically I could bring my own project, and this academy was supporting me to develop my own project, allowing me to yeah, tailor-make the curriculum. Of course,
Mhm.
there are some mandatory things that I needed to cover, but still they were very supportive for me to go deeper into my own inquiry, which was movement improvisation meets music improvisation and vocal improvisation cross genre.
Yeah. And how did that, so you immersed yourself in that for 6 years or so. How did that shift you, do you feel?
First of all, the nature in Norway is magnificent.
Mm.
And I was living in Oslo, quite much in the central area. And yet in 15 minutes, I can be inside nature, lake and forest, and Norwegian people, they have very close relationship with nature. So of course, there was this educational aspect, and all the art research that I have done in my last 2 years. I have done the master degrees with my own artistic research, which also definitely deepened my own practice. But to be in that environment, for example, um, in winter time when everywhere is covered by snow. I'm sure you have also snow, lots of snow. No?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's so quiet.
Hmm.
All the sound is absorbed by the snow. And then I understood why this Norwegian music is like that, where that is coming from.
Mm.
Because they have been experienced um, through their whole life, but also all these generations, this quality of silence.
Yeah, there's a certain, yes, yeah, that gave me chills. Yes, that kind of stillness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And also the space, because in
yeah.
that huge land, not so many people are living. And so I discovered all these things were certainly reflected in their own music and music. Yeah, and yet actually my journey was unfolding in a way that I did not expect at the very beginning,
Mhm.
because I was very fascinated by Norwegian music and the quality of space that was inside music, the silence that was present in the sound. And so I thought the answer was in Norwegian music, but the sign came along the way as I kept searching and searching, and then I found out it's actually I have to go back to my own roots,
Mm.
my Japanese roots. And I believe there are some similarities in this culture, in these two cultures. And this foreign culture was reflecting to me what I have inherited in my own culture.
Mm. Yeah, there is that concept of
Mhm.
space
Yeah,
in Japan. That's also reflected in the way the drum tsumi, you know,
yeah,
that is hit. It's not hit for the sound, I feel like it's hit for the silence. it marks the stillness. The
Mhm.
sound marks the stillness. It's yeah. Wow, that's beautiful.
Mm.
It brings up this query that interests me more and more of how the different energies of the earth um, is so specific. It's site specific in a way. There are places that awaken, that have the capacity to awaken us in certain ways, just like you were
Yes.
talking about with Iceland or
Mhm.
with Norway. Um, there is also, um, if we can look at Earth not in terms of, what can it do for me? Because that's the way that we're treating Earth right now. What can it do for humanity? What kind of profits can I get? What kind of natural resources can I extract from this place? So it's all about use. How is it useful? Um, Instead of this coexistence and co-creation wherein we listen and just like every single person we encounter is different, every single location on earth carries a really different energy that can awaken something profound, a wisdom that's really profound within us, you know, that
Yes.
we, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I relate with that very, very deeply. And in fact, I feel I've been in that journey very much right now, coming back to this Pacific West Coast after
Mm,
spending 6 years in Norway, because it's amazing what I experience in Norway. I feel that this it's like from crown chakra, the inspiration and creative energy comes like this. It's clear as clear as the air and the water there. So
mm,
it's very different energy. And so of course there are also ways that you create your own music, so to say, and that is in a way untouchable, that wherever you go you have your thing and you do your thing. And yet I think because I've been always very inspired this receiving aspect, so there is deep relevancy to where you are, where I am. And so the music that was so alive when I was living there, it's not just me. And it has very much to do with the land where I was, and certainly
mm,
also people and community. And having moved to here, back to here in the Pacific West Coast in California, it doesn't work in the same way
mm,
because the energy is different. The land, the quality of the land and the vibration, this very, very alive vibration that's on this California land is has so much different message and musicality and energy. And then what is then the relevancy that's being created through conversing with nature here? It's been, yeah, for 1.5 years since I am back here, and I'm still searching.
mm. I'm going to jump a little bit, but when did the your how did sound and I know that you kind of look at all of this without barriers, and it's kind of all a continuum in a way
Mm,
um, of aliveness and energy, or we
yeah,
can call it art. But with the sound healing, because I know that you've started to move quite a bit also into crystal balls and
mm,
crystal triangles, the sound healing aspect,
yeah.
and of um, moving with nature. I mean, how did that come in, and how is that developing
Mm.
inside you?
The aspect of crystal instruments. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced by a very dear friend um, to that instrument when I was living in Norway. He's a great teacher, shaman, wonderful professional percussionist. So he had this all these musical competence as percussionist, but he is also shaman. So it's a he plays these crystal balls and gongs in a very it's just different
Oh,
level.
is he the one that plays with you on the TED Talk?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll see. Yes, I'd like to
Yeah.
show a little bit of that. Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
thank you. And so he he's an elder also, elder friend. So was very deep support also to know him in my life there because as a musician, I think it's different here in California. But if you're a musician, then not necessarily the spirituality is there, energy is there. You do
Hmm.
music, and so to have someone close in my life who are really embodying this weaving of these two world together,
Spirituality and art.
art,
Hmm.
spirituality and art, the professional musicianship,
Mm-hmm.
so to say. And and as I listened to his crystal sound, I felt such deep calling and resonance. And so I started to play around 2015, and and yes, I'm vocalist, but it's very much connected, and it has the practice with crystal instruments have definitely transformed my own relationship with my voice and music as well. And yeah, the overtone of the instrument and how it resonates and echoes into the timelessness,
Mm.
but also it has this access, energetic access. It's hard for me to put into words, but it's a healing. It Yeah, it's
Yeah.
difficult to put into words, but it touches your soul. It touches your cell, but also it can. There is this feeling and an experience of it can reach and unite with Earth as well as the sky and the stars.
Mm.
And the instrument shows me and teaches me that possibility. And so once I'm shown and experience that in my body, then of course I can source that for my own vocal expression as well.
Wow. Is there would you like to share with us some of the crystal sounds that you do,
Yes,
that you create and you make and yeah.
yeah. So I have been creating time to time under this what you can call maybe project called crystal music meditation, and some of them I have recorded in nature, and some of them I collaborate with another artist. And sometimes I have very clear and strong intention with which I create the musical journey. So it differs. But yes, I would love to share one of the videos.
Yeah. Okay. Hang
Okay.
on, let me pause here for a second.
Mm.
Okay, so Seshen, so you're going to share this 5-minute crystal music meditation.
Yes.
Um, and is there something that you want to tell us before? Should we just dive in?
Yes, so this video was made last year in May in a place called Lompok, which is about 1 hour south from where I'm living. And very powerful ocean and sand dune. And I was having my instrument with me. So yeah, very spontaneously that we made this film. So I just play first and with that
Okay,
introduction.
wonderful. So everybody just sit back and relax and enjoy. Okay. Yeah. So that was just, there's something so soothing
Mm,
about being given the spaciousness
mhm,
to simply listen and see as well a visual, as if we're there.
mm,
So often now, we're so used to all these fast cuts
mhm,
and music that's also driven, and there are moments for that. It's kind of there are moments when that can be really kicking in, and at the same time there is this incredible sense of relief for me
mhm,
when everything is allowed to soften, to slow down, to come back into connection just with simply what's happening. And um, the thoughts or the ideas, or it's not like going like this anymore, to be able to, literally to just pause.
yes.
And yeah,
Yeah, for me, it's also the same. It's a
yeah,
medicine. Yeah.
yeah, it really is. And to be able to give that, I find that in the healing work that I do, the most important thing is to be able to give my clients their own spaciousness, because given enough spaciousness, uh, people find their own answers and their own rhythm and their own yeah, their own rhythm. I feel like a lot of the malaise, the illnesses, and difficulties arise when we are no longer in our own rhythm, but we're moving to somebody else's or something other, an other rhythm. And I really believe that the healing capacity is actually within ourselves. And
Yes.
as a healer, my work is um, to see if there's a way that I can help them or accompany them into that reconnection with their own healing source. And that oftentimes is about slowing down and re-engaging with our own bodies, to re-engage with what the present moment might be, um, which brings us back into, which is really fascinating to me, when we connect with our own essence, it brings us back into the ocean of everything, that we connect with everything when we are most deeply in our own essence. You know, that's really fascinating to me. So, but thank you so much for that session. It's gorgeous, and and before we end, I wanted to briefly touch upon your other passion, which is
Mm.
cooking.
Yes.
So tell me about this blog. You have a blog. It looks amazing, people. I went and visited it. So if you are interested in any kind of mindful cooking, and it's called,
Mindful Japanese cooking.
eh,
Yeah. Well, yes, I loved cooking since I was a little girl. And so, like, I have loved singing. I think these
hmm,
two have been really my love for all my life. And yeah, there was also dancing coming in. But anyway, yes, as I was going through my own healing journey, and then then I started to take workshops here and there. It wasn't in my mid-20s, and I traveled um, quite often. And so going to different places as well as immersing myself with different kind of energies, I realized how it was not easy for me to balance my energy when I was back home.
Mm.
And I started to really question, what can I do for myself? And around that time, I encountered macrobiotic. Michio Kushi's book was written, all the life is spiral. And wow, this is what it is. I mean, I'm not practitioner of microbiotic, but what I learned there, I studied macrobiotic, and what I learned there has been still one of the greatest influences and inspirations for me, because it's about energy, knowing
Mm.
our own body's energy, knowing the energy of our life, knowing the energy of the place where we are, knowing the energy of each food's ingredients, knowing the energy of each method of cooking. And all this alchemy can help to balance our being. And we are what we eat. So it's one of the greatest ways for me to be able to take care of myself by myself in very day-to-day level.
Mm-hmm.
So that and crossing that threshold, I think brought me to deeper level of my relationship with cooking. And that's also part of the reason why I practiced for some time farming, wanting to really learn what I am eating.
No,
Or
it's quite something because yeah, you spent time in Hawaii
yes.
on the farm. Yes, with the Japanese artist. I forget her name.
Yeah, it's Mayumi Oda, who,
Okay.
yes, who is a goddess artist.
Yes, I know because one of
Yes.
my teachers, Dina Metzger, had was friends with her, and I didn't, before way before I met you, and this was way back, and she had a Kuan Yin that had been painted
Oh,
by,
yes.
yeah, Mayumi. Yeah,
Yeah, very special.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, it's a very different thing, and yet for me it's also very much related, because yes, going out in the nature and take walk, spend time there, um, is definitely a way to be in communion with nature. But for me, I feel meeting all the ingredients and working with it and creating something that really nourishes us. I feel it's
Mm.
also a moment to, yeah, come close to nature, both outside and also inside. And it's been also medicinal for me, because it's the very much creative work that I can do every
Hmm.
day. I
Wow, that's
believe
really
in,
wonderful.
yeah, I believe in the true medicine of stay creative, because if we are in that
Hmm.
energy, then so much can be transformed. And yeah, so
Yeah, that's so true.
yeah.
Wow. Come and live over here and cook. All the foods. You have to go to her blog. Um, and it's the blog address. If they go mindful Japanese cooking, they
Yeah,
would find
mindful,
it.
yes, mindful minus Japanese minus cooking.com.
Okay, so it's like mindful hyphen, right?
Hyphen, yes.
Japanese hyphen cooking.com. She's got like photos, recipes, tons of things that is really really wonderful. Wow, so we can keep on going for a long time session, but thank you so much today. This was really, really it was just wonderful to spend time with you and in conversation with you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and hopefully soon we can be in the same space
Yes, yes, I
to
very
be
much
in conversation.
yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me in this
Um,
space. And it was beautiful to be able to also speak about things that we haven't spoken yet, and get to
mm-hmm.
yeah learn from each yeah get to know about these things, and also yeah I've been really appreciating your work, and
Thank you.
so really honored and grateful to be part of.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And to see Session's work, go to www.sessionarts.com.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of her healing offerings are there as well. So, okay. Thank you so much, Session. Okay. And blessings and blessings, everybody. Thank you for listening in, and we'll see you all soon for the next episode.